Stop everything and do not scroll past this moment, because what you are about to witness is not just a denial or a rumor. It is the exact second everything shifted between Wu Lei and Zhao Lusi, and if you stay with this until the very end, you are going to understand why what he said did not calm the situation. It made it even more intense. It started with a single sighting. Not confirmed. Not explained. Just a moment captured from a distance. Wu Lei standing with a woman no one recognized. Close enough to raise questions. Casual enough to create doubt. The image spread quietly at first. A few whispers. A few screenshots. A few people trying to understand what they were seeing. Then it grew. Faster. Louder. Turning into something no one could ignore. Because in a world where every detail is watched, even a small moment can become something bigger than it was ever meant to be. Zhao Lusi did not react publicly at first. She did not rush to respond. She did not allow the outside noise to dictate her reaction. But those who knew her noticed the change. Not dramatic, not obvious, but there. In the way she paused before speaking. In the way her attention shifted. In the way her silence lasted just a little longer than usual. And then came his response. Wu Lei stepped forward. Not physically, but publicly. With a statement that was meant to bring clarity. He said it was not what people thought. That the moment had been misunderstood. That the woman was not who people assumed she was. His words were calm, carefully chosen, delivered in a way that suggested control. But something about it did not settle the situation. It stirred it, because denial, when emotions are already involved, does not always remove doubt.
Sometimes it amplifies it.
Zhao Lusi saw the statement, not as a fan, not as someone distant from the situation, but as someone directly connected to it. And her reaction was not immediate.
It could not be.
Because moments like that do not create instant responses. They create reflection. She replayed everything. Not just the sighting, but the time before it, the conversations, the moments that had built something between them. And now all of it felt uncertain. Not broken, but questioned. And questioning changes everything. They met soon after. Not in front of cameras. Not in a place where anything could be controlled. Just a quiet space where the truth could not be avoided. Wu Lei spoke first. Not repeating his public statement, but explaining it. He told her the same thing. That the moment had been misunderstood. That the woman meant nothing beyond what it appeared to be. That there was no hidden meaning. No secret behind it. But this time, the words carried more weight. Because they were not for the public. They were for her. Zhao Lusi listened. Without interrupting. Without reacting immediately. Because this was not about what he said. It was about whether she believed it. And belief is not something that can be forced. It is something that forms on its own. She asked him one question. Simple.
Direct.
If it meant nothing, why did it feel like something? The silence that followed was longer than anything before. Because that question did not ask for facts. It asked for truth. Wu Lei paused. Not because he did not have an answer, but because he understood what the question really meant. He admitted something then. Something that changed the direction of the moment. He said that even if the situation meant nothing, the way it looked mattered. The way it felt mattered. And he had not considered that. Not fully. Not in a way that protected what they had been building. That admission did something unexpected. It did not erase the doubt, but it shifted it. Because honesty changes how uncertainty feels. Zhao Lusi's expression softened slightly. Not into trust, but into understanding. She told him that what shocked her was not just the sighting. It was how quickly everything could become unclear. How something that felt real could suddenly feel uncertain. Wu Lei stepped closer. Not to close the distance completely, but enough to show that he was still there. Still present. Still trying. He told her he could not change what had already happened, but he could change what came next. That what mattered now was not the moment people saw, but the way he handled everything after it. The room fell quiet again. But this silence was different. Less tense. More reflective. Because this was no longer about the sighting. It was about what they would choose to do with it. Zhao Lusi took a step back, not to leave,
But to think, to feel.
to understand what she wanted beyond the confusion. Because decisions made in moments like that are not about the past. They are about the future. The story did not end with a clear answer. It did not resolve itself instantly, because real moments rarely do. It ended with something far more real. Uncertainty. The kind that forces people to look deeper, to question not just what they see, but what they feel. And now the only question that remains is this. When someone tells you it is not what you think, but everything feels different, do you trust their words? Or do you trust what your instincts are trying to tell you? If this moment made you feel something real and you want to see what happens next, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who understands that the truth is not always found in what is said. It is found in what is felt when everything becomes uncertain. The moment his denial went public, it should have calmed everything down, but instead it created a silence that felt heavier than the rumors themselves. And if you stay with this until the very end, you're going to understand why what happened after that statement between Wu Lei and Zhao Lusi was not about proving what was true, it was about deciding what still mattered. Zhao Lusi did not respond immediately, not with a post, not with a reaction, not even with a subtle hint, and that silence began to speak louder than anything else. Because when someone chooses not to respond, it means they are not reacting to the noise. They are thinking about the truth. Behind the scenes, everything slowed down. The usual rhythm between them shifted. Messages became shorter. Pauses became longer. Moments that once felt easy now carried weight. Wu Lei noticed it, not all at once, but gradually. In the way conversations ended without closure. In the way her tone changed without explanation. In the way distance appeared without being acknowledged. He reached out again. Not publicly, not in a way that could be seen, but directly, asking to meet, not to defend himself, not to repeat what he had already said, but to understand why his words had not been enough. She agreed, not quickly, but not after too long either, because avoiding the moment would not change it. And when they met, there was no tension in the room at first, just a quiet understanding that something needed to be addressed. Wu Lei spoke carefully, not rushing, not trying to fill the space with explanations. He told her that what he said publicly was true, that there was nothing hidden behind the moment people saw. But then he said something that changed everything. He admitted that even if nothing had happened, the situation itself mattered, because how something looks can affect how it feels, and how it feels can change everything. Zhao Lusi listened, not interrupting, not reacting immediately, because this was not about hearing him again. It was about deciding whether what he said now felt different. She told him the truth, that what shocked her was not just the sighting. It was how quickly things could become unclear, how something that once felt steady could suddenly feel uncertain. And that uncertainty was not something she could ignore. Wu Lei stepped closer, not too close, just enough to show he was still present. Still willing to face whatever came next. He told her that he could not change what had already happened, but he could be more aware, more intentional, more careful with what they were building, because what they had was not something he wanted to lose over something that meant nothing. The silence that followed was not uncomfortable. It was thoughtful, because both of them understood that this was not a simple decision. It was not about right or wrong. It was about trust. And trust does not return instantly. It rebuilds slowly, through actions, through consistency, through time. Zhao Lusi took a step back, not to create distance, but to create clarity. She told him she needed time, not to test him, not to create distance, but to understand her own feelings without pressure. Wu Lei nodded, not arguing, not asking for more, because he understood that this was not something he could control. Days passed, and something subtle began to change. Not dramatically, not obviously, but enough to be noticed. Wu Lei did not try to prove himself with words. He showed it through small actions. Consistency, patience, moments that did not demand attention but carried meaning. Zhao Lusi observed, Not judging quickly, not deciding instantly, but allowing those moments to build something again. Slowly,
Carefully.
without rushing. The final moment came quietly, not in a dramatic setting, not in front of anyone,
Just the two of them again.
standing in a space that felt familiar but different. She looked at him with a calm that had not been there before, and she told him something simple. She said she did not fully understand everything yet, but she was willing to try, not because everything was clear, but because what they had was still worth exploring. Wu Lei did not react with excitement. He did not celebrate. He simply accepted it, because he knew that this was not a reset. It was a second chance, one that needed to be handled with care. The story does not end with certainty. It does not end with everything resolved. It ends with something far more real.
A choice.
To move forward despite doubt. To rebuild something that was shaken but not broken. And now the only question that remains is this. When words and reality seem to conflict, but the connection still feels real, do you walk away to protect yourself? Or do you stay and see if something stronger can grow from the uncertainty? If this continuation made you feel something real and you want to see what happens next, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who understands that trust is not about perfection. It is about what people choose to do after everything becomes unclear.